my background is already in product. That was my skill set. That's what I knew what to do. I didn't necessarily know how to be a CEO, even though that was my title.
Welcome back to D2C Diaries, episode 51. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Holly from Hera Clothing. Feels like this has been long overdue. We've been trying to get a date in the calendar for what feels like 6+ months. So
yeah.
Super excited to have you on. Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, really happy to be here.
To join us. I'm really excited to dig into the journey of Hera as a brand, especially post acquisition and post you taking up that CEO role, and a few of your specialisms, especially relative to the when put into context of our podcast, where we spend so much time talking about marketing and front end, but don't give enough airtime to product.
Being a founder of an e-commerce business is a constant grind, as a lot of our listeners will know. You're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're juggling many, many things. And one of the biggest problems that we see in most e-com brands is cash flow. So let's say you've got an ad campaign that's absolutely crushing, but you don't have the capital to be able to pour more money into it. Or let's say you're about to run out your best-selling product and you needed to restock like yesterday.
We know so many founders that have tried the traditional route. They've gone to banks and been told to come back in a couple of years when they've got more history. Or they go to traditional investors and they spend more time pitching than actually running the business. They thought there was no other option and that funding always meant giving up control.
That's where Wayflyer come in. They understand the speed and unique needs of e-commerce. They give you the funding you need based on your business's performance, not endless paperwork. And it's non-dilutive financing, which means you don't have to sell a single share of your company. No one wants to give away their equity, and you get to keep all of it, which is something you've worked so hard for.
Plus, they give you more than just cash. They give you access to insights and analytics, so you know how to best spend your newfound capital to drive growth.
I think I can speak on behalf of Ollie and I here. So many of the brands we have worked with have used Wayflyer at inflection points within their business to help them scale to multiple 8 or even 9 figures in revenue.
It's not just a loan, it's a partner in growth. So if you're a founder looking to scale up without giving away equity, it's time to check out wayflyer.com in the description below.
I guess I can dig into it a little bit with but that's, my background. So for me, when we took the brand over, so we took the brand was founded 10 years ago now, I guess, for anybody who doesn't know, and was a predominantly menswear brand. And we acquired the business about 4 years ago now. It's 4 years in October. And
October
it's actually,
2021.
Yeah, the brand was founded 10 years ago in October, near enough to the day, which is quite strange. So yeah, we'll be celebrating 10th birthday, but obviously 4th birthday in a few weeks for us. And my background is product, kind of exactly what you said. I have always been, I did fashion design at university, so always had that kind of love for clothing specifically, but product. And very quickly realised while I was at uni that I didn't want to design. And so I decided I wanted to go into buying, and that's when I got my first kind of roll out of uni at Flannels. Was with them for a little bit of time, and then actually went into toiletries, but it was such a massive learning curve for me at that point, because it was all around the actual development of the product and putting together. So from an ops perspective, I learned a huge amount of the critical path and the supply base, and how it was the best way to plan stock, and a huge amount of that. And it was a very small business, and I worked really closely with the founder and owner, and that was her background. So I felt like I had a mentor there who taught me so much. I was really, really fortunate. And then from that went into Gymshark. So everybody knows Gymshark. I was one of the first hires outside of, I guess, the friends and family group that were originally there. And so Niran, who is now CEO of Adenola, Seb, Steve Hewitt, who was eventually kind of became their CEO. We kind of all went in at a point where the brand was already seeing phenomenal growth, and we were, I guess, the skill sets to try and steady the ship and
shape out those
and
functions.
Allow the growth. That was almost not happening without trying, because obviously the guys did such an incredible job, but it was no one could keep up
Yeah.
with what was happening. And that can kill businesses as quickly as make them, I think. So I was there, kind of set up their product team, and that was my role, and then transferred that over to MyProtein. So, you know, a huge group there, but as part of like the Hut group, and obviously a huge brand. MyProtein's a massive brand. But the clothing element side of it was very, very small. So I again set up that team, kind of did a similar thing, and allowed the business to kind of see the growth that it needed to. So I think when we then acquired Hera, my background is already in product. So I already, that was my skill set. That's what I knew what to do. I didn't necessarily know how to be a CEO, even though that was my title. So I've had to kind of learn around my skill set of kind of product being the thing that I can do very, very easily, very, very well. And
Nice.
when you're acquiring a brand, I think you've got to kind of nod to the existing customer. But there's obviously a reason why we acquired the brand. It was kind of stalling in its evolution, I think, and we wanted to make sure that we could also then move it on in a sustainable way.
Yeah, I guess you're buying that potential and that upside, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to just, you touched on each of your previous roles there, and I guess the I can imagine knowing what from maybe being in each phase of that growth myself, or been seeing brands at those different stages, that close one-to-one engagement with the founder into Gymshark, which I imagine at that time must have been very scrappy. It must have been a mindset of like, scrappy, we just make things happen. We solve problems. We do a lot with very little. And then moving maybe into the Hut group, which perhaps had more of an org structure and more of a formalized system. Do you think having those very distinctly different experiences has really helped you then progress into a CEO role?
Definitely. I think it's allowed me, because I mean, I'm now co-owner of Hera as well. So own and run the business alongside my sister Georgia. And the roles that I've had they felt almost like I've been owning and running the business as well, because Gymshark I was in so early, you know, it was flying. So you felt like you were part of this kind of crazy journey, even when it was really, really early. And then, you know, MyProtein was different, but we were really fortunate that we had the infrastructure, you know, the kind of the backup of a really big business and a big group. But actually the clothing element was, we kind of ran on our own, and it was almost like it was our own individual little business.
Entrepreneurial almost.
Yeah, and I was really fortunate actually to have a lot of kind of one-on-one time in like range reviews and things like that with Matt, who obviously founded the whole group. And he almost viewed clothing as this real opportunity for growth within MyProtein overall, and wanted to kind of work very closely with kind of me and the team, I guess, to make sure it was aligned with what he wanted, because he was very involved in lots of elements of the group. So even though it was a big org, it was still quite scrappy.
Great breeding ground for like learning and development though.
Yeah.
I feel like when I look at even our business, like the guys who have progressed to like C-suite positions that were there really early on, just looking at their progression over a short space of time, it's been crazy.
The Hut group is very, very good at that. Like taking very young talent, you know, seeing it and promoting it. And, you know, this kind of the CEO, when I left, the CEO was Lucy Gorman, and she was CEO of MyProtein, and she'd just kind of like flown up through kind of from being, I think, a graduate there, and within like 2 to 3 years she was running a 300-400 million pound business.
I always think when I look at their like talent and like almost their alumni is so strong, but it must be so frustrating that they're just such a people just poach their staff so aggressively. Yeah. It must be such a difficult business to run in that sense.
Yeah, and a lot of them also go off and do their own, because I think they are so entrepreneurial within that kind of organisation, that ultimately they're learning and feeding something that then gives them the skill set to be able to go and do it themselves.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, in a way it's frustrating for them, but actually
it's a testimony to their ability to do that consistently and find those people and develop those people consistently.
It's a hard place to work.
Yeah.
You know, really, really like difficult place to work, as in you have to give it everything you've got while you're in there. They don't really kind of settle for much less than that. So, but you reap. Put in
100%, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Looking at Hera specifically, or Hera,
either or.
When you came into the brand and completed that acquisition and stepped in as CEO, like what was your view of how you wanted to take it forward from where it was? You mentioned like retaining some of what it made it.
Yeah.
What made it that brand, but also like, how did you approach evolving it beyond that point?
So when we took over, obviously the business was kind of struggling quite a bit. It had got to a point where it had hit its kind of ceiling of growth and had stayed there for a good couple of years. And I think the first thing we really noticed when we went in is actually that the customer had been neglected for quite a while, the existing customer, and whether that was just kind of communicating them through customer service or making sure kind of refunds were done on time. You know, the experience that I think customers expect a very high level these days. It wasn't really being met. So we took over in the October and then had Black Friday a month.
Baptism of fire.
A month later. So our main goal was fighting the fires, really. Implementing some structure where we could, the foundations of kind of processes or systems that we needed for us to then give the customer the level of experience that we believed that they should have, or that was a kind of a best practice in the market. So whether that was just a well-functioning site experience, or that they could return the product easily, they could expect their order the next day from us. Like, you know, we wanted to over-deliver because of the way that we felt like it had kind of been left for the start of that year, I would say, definitely. So that was our focus, really. Outside of that, we started to test product, I would say. I actually, now in hindsight, feel like we should have taken a little bit longer to really... We went very big very quickly, and that's in the same as, you know, the growth we wanted to achieve, the team that we brought in, even to the 3PL partner that we've partnered with Blackman, who are with Gymshark and represent, and, you know, some huge brands. And we went very professional very quickly. And actually, I think what me and Georgia talk about now is just allowing some time for things to settle. I think when you take a business over, obviously you have to keep the kind of the wheels turning, but allowing the time for us to really figure out what we wanted the brand to become. We didn't necessarily give ourselves that time. We just ran straight, full steam ahead. So I think then what's happened is in the last, I'd say 18 months specifically, we've almost pulled ourselves back again. The range went very big, and we tested a lot of product without necessarily knowing why we were trying to test it. And I think you have to market that product to be able to sell it, and, you know, learning that budgets don't kind of go that far. In this day and age was, you know, we've learned a lot over the first 2 years, and I think now implemented much more focus in actually the direction that we want to go in with the brand, but also then how that then filters all the way down to the people you hire, the partners that you partner with, the product that you produce, the way that you market it, everything. So I guess the real answer is we didn't really know what we were going to do. And we had to prioritize what we thought was the fires at the time. And, you know, a lot of we've got some fantastic people around us in terms of like consultancies or people that have been in these unicorns that have just kind of grown, but not necessarily been there from the start and kind of seen maybe how we almost needed to go back to start the brand from scratch in a way, to allow it to have the growth that we wanted it to have.
Makes sense. And I do think that fashion, I always say fashion is such a difficult niche.
It's really tough.
I think it's like the hardest vertical.
Yeah.
Especially in those early stages, because every decision you make can almost be like life or death. If you get a collection wrong, if you get a stock order wrong, if you make the wrong investment in a marketing decision.
Yeah. And for stock and development of product, if you want to do really good product, takes time.
Yeah. You have to operate 2 years in advance almost.
We're kind of 12 months really from idea to launch, which is actually relatively quick when you're developing it's completely your own product. Obviously you can do things much faster when they're more off the shelf. But you're making those decisions on the brand and then have to 6 months down the line, your vision may have kind of altered, the path that you want to go on may have altered, and you've got to adapt then to where the product that's actually kind of coming that you've worked on. So constantly tweaking and changing.
How are you approaching that sort of development cycle from a high level? I think that's something that we haven't really spoke about on any of our previous episodes, like from sort of research, identification of opportunity through to finalize product and even like take to market. Is that is that a fully fleshed out, optimized, dialed in process?
Yeah, we fortunate to have a platform called WGSN, which is just like a trend platform, really. Yeah. So we do stick quite closely to that because it is, I guess everybody thinks that, give an example, like the brown chocolate colour that's in every store at the moment just magically happens.
Yeah, or butter yellow in some, as my girlfriend was telling me last year.
That was on WGSN 2 years ago in terms of like a colour that was coming. So everybody's kind of following along a similar path, and that's how it all comes into the store in every store as a trend, I guess. Something that we've done recently is to actually, when I say kind of pull back, we've started to focus less on kind of new categories, but actually focus on, we say like what we do well, do more of what we do well.
Yeah.
And, we're known for denim as a brand. Also known, in the men's space specifically for your logo kind of branded t-shirts and hoodies and kind of more of that oversized fit. So, but the brand was founded on denim, and we have really lent into that, definitely on the women's side, because women's wear didn't really exist within the brand before we took it over. And we wanted to align the men's and the women's product, even though they're kind of separate socials, almost they feel like separate brands, because to market to men and women, you have to do things very differently. But still those product areas, we basically picked like 3 categories, and we were like, they're the categories that we're going to focus on. We're a small business. We've got a small budget. We've got to do those really, really well. And almost at the end of it, the customer has to know us for those 3 categories, 1 at least, but hopefully all 3. So I would say you can have the research element to support you, but there's also a real, it's really important to make sure that you focus on the things that are actually going to give you a point of difference in the market when it comes to clothing. We take the research, we'll take the trends, and then it's kind of translating them into actually what's going to work for our customer, and also what we can feel like we can truly be involved in at the size of brand, because it's great to think that we can do everything, but it all costs money to buy the product. Costs money to market the product. So that's why we've kind of pulled back so much, I guess, to focus.
Yeah, I saw on one of your previous episodes that I watched prior to this, like that, just you reiterated a phrase that we always speak about internally to brands, because we work with many brands in that sort of early to mid phase of growth.
Yeah.
And it's that concept of doing less better.
100%. Yeah.
It's just like constantly, and I think it's that founder mindset. It takes a lot of restraint to not do
Really,
new
really
things.
does. Yeah.
Because it's dopamine.
It's just like the fun, like new things. And we talk about like the 80-20 rule when you're kind of developing product for us. Like majority of brands, you know, there's some really big brands out there doing fantastic things in our categories, but the majority of their revenue is going to be coming from
Hero SKUs. Right?
Like a small range. And obviously you don't want the revenue to be coming from one product because there's a huge risk in that. You've got to kind of diversify into probably over a few categories, but in a similar in a similar range. And that's where you can drive, you know, your margin and your relationships with suppliers and really unlock some of the things that are actually going to make the business P&L work. Whereas that kind of 20% of newness, nice, exciting, different colors, different fits, that might be the thing that grabs the attention. I always say there's someone who say it's like the red handbag versus the black. You get the attention with the red handbag and the woman's going to buy the black one.
Yeah. Makes sense, yeah. And I guess that do you look at that through, obviously you mentioned that, and I think you can see from the outside looking in that the brand has a very like strong and distinct identity and quite a loyal following across customers, certainly now that I imagine you've developed with the work you've put in since taking over the brand. Do you find that when you're looking at product development, you're thinking through the lens of like acquisition versus retention driver, or do you see any like differences in how things play out there? Yeah,
I think it's exactly that rule of the 80-20 because you're trying to, you know, maybe, I mean, from a menswear perspective, our brand was known for the super spray on skinny jean, which I'm not sure many people would be kind of dead in now, but you know, there's been such an evolution of what that customer's wearing. We still sell them and they still sell. So there's people that are buying them and are still kind of in that era and are comfortable with it. But our customer has definitely evolved like to a slim or a relaxed, or, you know, they're not necessarily to a carpenter baggy kind of level now yet. But I think, you know, we are there to kind of open their eyes. You know, if they trust us and they've worn our slim fit for 4 years now, they're probably going to come to us to start to wear something a little bit more relaxed and that they're seeing people around in and they're kind of thinking, oh, do I want to try it? So our slim fit is our bestseller. That's what kind of like is our core revenue driver. But our relaxed and then our carpenter is the 20% that we start to feed in, and hopefully we get it right. And as our customer moves in that direction, or even a new customer may be acquired through those new products as well. But we make sure that we're kind of offering something that might kind of grab their attention to, I guess it's both retention, because they could be existing and be on their journey with us. But then there is an acquisition level of where the market is moving.
Makes sense. I guess just before we switch gears, if you're like a brand owner watching, like what, always want to try and leave with like actionable takeaways that they can implement into their business from like a product development perspective. Have you got like any 3 like key tips or nuggets that people can take forward that may help their process or just allow them to make better decisions, I guess?
I would always, we always develop more and produce less. So constantly be developing new products, new ideas to kind of have in your back pocket. I think when you never know when you're going to want to kind of switch something on, and that means you can be a little bit more agile, but make sure that you've kind of got your core in work and kind of they're the things that you know are going to kind of be the cash drivers, and the things in your back pocket will probably more be an opportunity. So I definitely say the focus on those things and kind of the overdevelopment, and then go with a bit more focus. Your suppliers are so unbelievably important as a small business, and I think gone are the days of just drilling down on price and getting exactly what you want for one order, and then because it's a very small world and you will run out of people who will produce for you very, very quickly. Really, I've built some incredible relationships. The people that I work with at Gymshark I'm still working with today, and they've kind of come with me, into MyProtein, and still do business for MyProtein, and and then have kind of come along the Hera journey as well. And you it's a two-way thing. You have to make sure that you're giving them as much as they're going to give you, because you never know when you're going to need them, whether that's I really need this product really quickly, can you put me ahead of whoever it is on the line, or when they might need you with maybe a price increase or a payment slightly earlier, things like that you can support each other on. So I would say kind of focus on your range, suppliers, and the product is the thing that's going to get the customer to come back. If the customer receives a product, it might be like the most sought after thing in the market. If they get the product and it's not great, if it washes once and the colours run, or the print starts to peel off or crack or something like that, or it doesn't quite fit right, or the fabric feels cheap, they're just not going to come back to you. So I'd say focus on actually creating a product that you'd want to wear. I think 6 months down the line.
I think both the supplier piece and that relational aspect is I think is so important. A lot of our best brands are the ones that have that and have been able to build the most like flexibility, or maybe flexibility is the wrong word, but
it's support. I think.
Yeah. The ability, support the other way as well as to give them the ability to maybe capitalize on demand when it comes out of nowhere, or plug a gap if they have an issue with another supplier. And then on the product experience, I just think is so true. I feel like brands sweat like the 1% retention plays in CRM, which are important, but and don't spend enough time just obsessing over like, how is this going to show up at someone's door?
Yeah. 100%.
How does that, because that's the biggest driver of LTV.
Yeah. Like how is it going to wash? How is it going to iron? How is it, all of those things that you just, is a seam going to split? It's those things that actually will get a customer to come back to you. First, they'll feel great in the product when they put it on, but second, it will actually last. And then they'll feel like they got value for the hard earned money that they've spent. And I just think to have a long-term brand that grows and evolves and establishes itself, you've got to have that. Otherwise, you're just a flash in the pan.
100%. I think that almost residual base of repeat revenue is just so important. More important now than it ever has been. Because acquisition's getting harder and harder.
And it also builds that word of mouth as well. Like a customer, someone who feels great in it and it's washed well, they're going to go like tell their friend, that actually, like I've had this for a while now, it still feels like brand new.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting to get I like to take a look at brands like referral traffic, like direct referral traffic. Is that increasing month on month as like a measure of like, are we just doing good and like, are we seeing this organically spread?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, that product side is just so important in that. I wanted to ask a couple of questions on that intersection of like product and marketing. Certainly feels from our viewpoint that product development, release schedules and timelines are accelerating. Like brands are trying to get more into market. I across all categories, whether that's like supplement brands, athletics greens who have been known for doing one SKU for years, a couple more flavors, Huel bringing out greens. It's like there's this category diversification and velocity of releases just seems to be increasing. I feel like in some orgs, it's like that intersection between taking products and really executing on marketing well is becoming quite a point of friction. How do you guys do that well in Hera?
We've definitely learned. Like I said, made that decision to kind of pull back and really focus on specific categories. And a big part of that was because we just felt like we couldn't do the launch justice.
Yeah.
Like so much goes into developing the product, and if you're not talking about it and delivering that message, then ultimately how are people going to find it and be able to sell? And I think it's a real bottleneck, and I think it feels like a little bit of a waste, because there's obviously some great product out there that gets very lost, and that actually we've definitely seen it, and we're like, well, it's a great product. We're like, why hasn't it worked? It hasn't had enough airtime to get it out in front of eyes, to, in such a saturated market, allow it to have a chance.
It's like compounding that you need to give it a time to like compound learnings from creative, from messaging perspective often, don't you?
Yeah.
I feel like.
And I think there's always a new customer, unless you've completely saturated your territory, let's say in the UK. And there's obviously so many people that are in your market that could be buying your product, that even if you're repeating the same message, if you've got a great product, you can sell that to someone new.
Yeah.
So it's almost I think sometimes kind of on like a brand marketing team, they want the new and exciting to talk about, and actually don't necessarily realize that core product is new and exciting to someone.
Yeah.
Because they might have never seen it before. They probably haven't seen it before.
Yeah, going back and thinking like, how can we sell this to maybe a different persona or a different angle, to a different identity, I think is, do it again. It goes back to doing less better, I guess, rather than just chasing volume.
I mean, if you're selling millions of a legging, as an example, versus like, if you're selling thousands of a legging, you've got a lot more customers in your bank that you could acquire. If you're selling millions, I understand that you've then got to kind of start to diversify, because there's only a certain amount of times that someone's going to buy a black legging, as an example. And you start to go into different styles or different colours, or even different territories, like in terms of like geography, there's that as well.
Yeah, I heard and again, referencing the podcast I heard that's a big focus for you guys this year. How's that journey been in terms of?
So only kind of just getting started, really. We don't see a huge amount of organic growth in another territory kind of like outperforming any of the others, if that makes sense. So we're majority UK, and that has been our focus since we took the brand over. And I think we're at a point where we feel confident in the brand, the product. We've kind of got all of our ducks in a row, that then to not enter a new market, because we sell globally, but to actually give it some focus and put some investment behind it, whether that's from kind of a paid perspective or a activation perspective, influencers or anything like that. We wanted to make sure we felt comfortable first with actually what we were the story we were going to tell, and the brand we were going to deliver to that customer, and also make sure that the experience that they were going to have, like I said, we worked really hard in the beginning to make sure that we had a really great fulfillment partner, and we had a great returns partner, and our website is decent. We want that customer in another territory to have the same experience, so not have their parcel stopped at customs and go through the headache of trying to like sort all of that, not be surprised at checkout with a ridiculously high delivery fee, things like that. So it's taken a little bit of time to cross all those T's, dot the I's, and I feel like we're in a good position now to kind of push forward with some of those.
It should become so much more challenging with all of the post-Brexit, hasn't it? It's just such a
and everything
minefield.
In the US as well at the moment. It's we've actually switched off the US as a market. It wasn't big for us. It's not a big impact, but all down to that customer journey of what is the customer going to experience now with our product going in there, and having to pay duties and taxes if they're not aware of that. And it's hard, because we've had customers email in saying, I can't buy from you anymore. Like, what can I do? And I'm like, we need to figure out how first. how to give you that experience that you had before again.
Yeah, it's just been such a feature of this year. It's just a lot of our brands have done the same. Just had to kill the market until we can find a better way to re-enter.
Yeah.
Being a founder of an e-commerce business is a constant grind, as a lot of our listeners will know. You're the marketer, you're the accountant, you're juggling many, many things. And one of the biggest problems that we see in most e-com brands is cash flow. So let's say you've got an ad campaign that's absolutely crushing, but you don't have the capital to be able to pour more money into it. Or let's say you're about to run out your best-selling product and you needed to restock like yesterday.
We know so many founders that have tried the traditional route. They've gone to banks and been told to come back in a couple of years when they've got more history. Or they go to traditional investors and they spend more time pitching than actually running the business. They thought there was no other option and that funding always meant giving up control.
That's where Wayflyer come in. They understand the speed and unique needs of e-commerce. They give you the funding you need based on your business's performance, not endless paperwork. And it's non-dilutive financing, which means you don't have to sell a single share of your company. No one wants to give away their equity, and you get to keep all of it, which is something you've worked so hard for.
Plus, they give you more than just cash. They give you access to insights and analytics so you know how to best spend your newfound capital to drive growth.
I think I can speak on behalf of Ollie and I here. So many of the brands we have worked with have used Wayflyer at inflection points within their business to help them scale to multiple 8 or even 9 figures in revenue.
It's not just a loan, it's a partner in growth. So if you're a founder looking to scale up without giving away equity, it's time to check out wayflyer.com in the description below.
That conversation around new markets is a nice segue onto growth in general. How have you seen the marketing mix develop for the brand since the acquisition? I guess it's quite a broad question, but and I have you seen any like big winners, big losers in terms of like channel splits in that time, or is it relatively similar?
I'd say at the beginning, we've had a lot of change from like a marketing perspective, whether that was we had a kind of a paid agency that we inherited at the start. We then moved to a different agency. We then took it back in-house. We're now kind of working with a consultant, but he's kind of more within the business than out of the business, if that kind of makes sense. So a little bit of a best of both. So I think because of that, the channel mix has evolved with the focus. We definitely had a bigger reliance on paid very early on. And one of the other things that we really realized was more the profitability around the revenue and really focusing on actually, well, you can spend whatever you want ultimately, but actually what are you going to get back from that? And not necessarily chasing the growth number, chasing the profitability number. And that has been definitely over the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen some real kind of step changes of efficiency being so much better on paid. And it's altered our channel mix, definitely because of that as well. Definitely less reliant on paid specifically. The organic channels, I think with the focus and the clear kind of brand identity that's been built on socials has supported social channel. So it's definitely going in the right direction. But it takes a really long time to switch from a heavy reliance on paid to less of a reliance and more kind of through CRM or social, or even just kind of organic search. It's a longer journey than you think that it's going to be. So yeah, I mean, it's moving in the right direction for us, and it's been really positive. But it's a long journey.
Yeah, definitely. I think that switch from top line growth to bottom line profit as a big focus is something we've done as a business as well. It just changes all your decision making. Completely. And I think it's been a function of the market over the last few years with that shift from heavy funding to real profit focus. But also
our paid digital marketing is not kind of my skill set, but the back end of the business sits under me. So actually that kind of it didn't originally, and it's one of the biggest things that you spend your money on as a business is basically paid marketing and stock.
Yeah.
Those are the two big numbers every single month, and we weren't kind of getting enough of what we needed to. So I actually, being kind of slightly more of the commercial mind out of myself and Georgia, my sister, she's chief brand officer, so she looks more after the creative and the front end. I actually took the paid exec that we had under kind of my reporting, and worked with her really closely and kind of, I guess, like learn what it was. You know, it wasn't in my skill set. Learn and asked a lot of stupid questions, and over those kind of 6 months of really working with her really closely, we really kind of have seen the efficiency improvements of going for quality and efficiency on that bottom line rather than just spending to get the growth.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting that you've made that change at an org chart level, because I think that we see where we can, whether it's us or whether it's within a brand that we maybe support, the closer that the commercial or the financial function can work with the acquisition function, we almost, the better the result usually. The better the feedback loop, the more granular that is.
I think as well, it's a benefit that I have a bit more of like a helicopter view, and you know, there's an element of the creative side in there from a product perspective, and I could see things that were coming from a product, or I could question why we were putting a specific ad out, like why wasn't that working? Well, you know, we're not tapping into anything that a human wants in that ad, so there's no reason why they're going to click on it unless you know, you're giving something that's going to grab their attention. You know, so there was quite a good mix, I think, of then behind that the commercial side of things, looking after the P&L and the accounts and knowing what we're spending every single month. Really makes you, especially when it's your own business, you question everything that you're spending when you're going through that kind of growth journey, especially.
100%.
Yeah.
So you've recently done well over the last sort of 12 months, done a variety of bigger influencer collaborations. Rachel Daly and Matt Armstrong being the two that I noted down specifically.
Yeah.
How have you found that to go? Is that how many have you done? Have you seen significant variations in performance? Any learnings from them?
Some very different learnings, very different levels of performance. None of them have been specifically kind of sale return kind of driven. Very much everybody that we've partnered with is more from a brand awareness perspective. When we decided to work with Rachel, we'd launched our women's wear collection, and also like I've spoken a little bit about where the brand was at, and we wanted to really establish trust within the brand again and equity in the brand, I think. So partnering with someone who, you know, in the female space as well, but also, you know, in women's football has seen substantial growth. It was a growth kind of market. She was a growth like name in a sense, but also a real kind of pioneer in advocating for women, advocating for the people that are going to kind of follow her. And it really aligned with who me and Georgia are behind the scenes, I guess, and also gave us the ability to establish a bit of a stamp of trust on the brand, especially from a women's perspective, and also from a male's perspective as well. Our kind of partnership with Matt, so we aren't actually officially kind of in partnership with them, with Matt himself. He loves the product. He loves Hera.
Perfect.
He's worn it loads, and you know, we really appreciate them and the guys. The whole team are fantastic. We actually then got into partnership with his merch brand. So HWBT is his kind of clothing brand, and he'd partnered with someone else, I think struggled with kind of the supply chain side of things, and they really wanted to just do what they do really well, sell the product,
awareness,
build the brand. Didn't want the headache of what comes with working with suppliers and developing product. And he loved our product, and the team approached us to produce their merch in kind of collaboration. So it's HWBT, but it's supplied by Hera. So it's all of our t-shirts, our hoodies, our kind of labels to an extent. It's our product with his design on, which has been really great. It's kind of brought, I guess, the two teams together. We're actually doing a Hera and HWBT collaboration next month, which is really exciting. And we're just very aligned as kind of brands of where we want to go, and especially kind of like our male customer as well. So it's a real kind of, it's an interesting partnership because it's not kind of an official one.
Makes sense.
Between the two brands.
Sounds like there's a lot of depth to that though, which I think is almost like how I see a lot of the best partnerships work almost. It's like that depth of...
We really kind of want to support each other.
Yeah.
I think like we do things from the product side and, take those headaches away and can deliver a service. Obviously, they're purchasing the goods from us. So it's, we're achieving sales in that way, but we're also giving them great quality product that they're not going to get the returns on, that they can, work with our team, and vice versa. They're very supportive when, we have launches, and, we did a collaboration with Pepsi earlier in the year as well. We sent literally a car full of Pepsi cans. One of Matt's favourites is cherry Pepsi. Sent him like literally a car full, a very nice car full of Pepsi with the hoodie in, and he was really supportive, and got the hoodie on, and
nice.
And is it's a really nice partnership between the two of us, and who knows where it can go as well.
Where do you see, like, looking forward maybe into end of this year in 2026, where do you see like the biggest opportunity for further growth across the channel mix? Is there anything you're really hanging your hat on in terms of a strategy that you're able to share, I guess, or maybe is...
Yeah, we've seen incredible growth on our women's denim. So we are honing in on that. We've got some really great product coming that's going to feed into that category. So from a product perspective, I think that is really kind of where we're focusing from a women's side. On the men's side, we're within the categories that we've already got equity in. So there's building on that with kind of new designs and new fits over the kind of autumn winter season. I guess the biggest element of growth outside of kind of the new year on year for women's will most likely be territory. I think it will be kind of focusing on some of those other markets that we're kind of dipping our toe in at the moment, and pushing into those and seeing what clicks. Nice.
You mentioned, I want to get onto kind of team and culture, because I think there's got some really interesting questions to ask there. But final question, with us coming up towards Black Friday, I think we'll be like maybe 6-7 weeks away from the
really
chaos.
Not very long.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question because I think it's certainly one of the areas that we see brands go wrong. But how are you retaining that like focus on efficiency and profitability into that period? Because I think where we always see, I think one of the things that brands become super susceptible to, even over that period more than ever, is that obsession with revenue and overspending, and then coming to the end of the month and looking at the P&L and being like, where's all my profit?
And then when your returns come back in January as a closing
compounds the issue, and the LTV cohort's less.
I mean, January is a really tough month, and it's everything. So you're looking at a P&L, it's then your VAT bill comes at that point. It's all of those things that you have to be really, really conscious of. You've got to be able to pay for.
Yeah.
And we definitely have like ambitious targets for Black Friday, but I feel like it's more of an opportunity for us. You know, there's an element of you're able to clear through some products that, you know, frees up storage space and allows you to kind of have the stock target at the end of the year that you want to have. It's good for pieces like that, and you know, maybe that's acquiring customers that maybe necessarily wouldn't buy into you at a full price moment, but we do see them being really valuable further down the line as well, especially if that product's not bad product, it's just the end of the season, or it's a couple of colours that were in a couple of seasons ago that, you know, we've still got a few pieces of. So the product's not bad, and they're still going to have that same experience. We really kind of focus more on what we can do this year specifically is really what we can do within the market at that time to create awareness with the brand, because everybody's looking to shop. It's like this surge in everybody's mind goes to, I'm going to spend my money. And if we can kind of do some slightly different things from like a brand or creative marketing perspective, or even from a paid perspective, to get more eyes on the business when appetite is high or intent is high, then, you know, acquiring that customer at that time and still delivering the experience that they're expecting. You know, we switch off next day because we don't want customers to be disappointed. But pretty much all orders are delivered next day, or and that comes back to your partner as well. So if you're with a fantastic fulfillment partner who can actually deliver on the growth that you're going to see, it works. So yeah, I would say we're not kind of obsessing over the number that we can bring in. It's more, how can we capitalize on the moment that's happening in the industry?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like thinking it really strategically from what you need to achieve, rather than just I think there's more maturity around that across brands now than there was maybe a few years ago.
Yeah.
I
think it's like some brands can go completely opposite and go, well, we're not going to participate.
Yeah.
Because it becomes too much of a reliance, and you want to hit those numbers every single year. And I think it's just doing it in a slightly more measured way. There can be a middle ground that you can use it to strategically try and do what you need it to do for your business, and that's going to be different for everybody.
100%. It's also just getting longer. There's some Saturday to Google sent something over to me the other day, and it was like some Super Saturday or something. I was like, I know. Where's that come from?
I know. There's just days and days. It's like, what else can they add into the calendar?
Singles Day from China that we've now capitalised on, which is another one. I wanted to touch on, obviously, your role within the team and I guess the culture that you've built in the business. How many people are you up to now? 12. Yeah. I had 12 down, but I didn't know if you hired someone between me getting that information.
12, I think.
How have you approached, I guess, that org build out and then the culture within the team and the business? It's something we obsess around in our business, is culture and team development.
So I think I've mentioned it a little bit, but I felt we did go very kind of big very quickly. And I think through that process, you learn who's right, who's not right, is it the right seat or the right person, and there's just not kind of a fit between those. So we've definitely had some learnings, and I think with the size of business we've not necessarily, now anyway, don't necessarily hire for specific skill set. We hire more for attitude, ethic, like who do I want in the trenches with me, next to me, when we're going to be, Black Friday goes wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's those people that are going to, if I ask something of them that is a little bit crazy, they're going to go, yeah, of course. Like, how do we do it? What do you need me to do?
Scrappy. We always use the word, it always comes back for us. We're trying to find a better word for it because it doesn't sound right, but I just like scrappy people.
Yeah, I think it's built people who have it built into them to just
make things happen,
get stuff done, and
solve problems.
Yeah, and it's a yes rather than I'm not really sure like how to do that. It's not going to work, and ultimately those people don't kind of fit. I think it's taken us. I've heard a lot of kind of leaders in business, have learned that journey, and almost it's the hire fast, fire faster type mentality of you have to figure out what your business is and who are the people that you need. And I think it feels like a journey that most kind of CEOs or founders go on. And it's almost like you have to go on it to realize it in a weird way.
Yeah. But you need to see enough examples of good and bad to build a reference point of like, this is...
Especially when it's not in your skill set as well. And I think that's why I refer to me and Georgia saying, actually now we wish we'd given ourselves like a little bit of time to understand the business, but that's actually understanding what roles we needed, what does it take to, we actually had our CRM exec left actually to go traveling kind of last year, and Georgia took on CRM, and it was actually one of the best things she said that she's done in the business, because she actually learned how and why and what we needed to do. She wasn't trained in it, and we had some support from kind of consultancies as well, just to kind of make sure that things were kind of happening. But it's almost like that's what we wish we'd done. So at least we had a frame of like reference of who we were bringing in,
what does great look like,
what their skill set was. And actually that it's maybe not that important to have a crazy high skill set at the size of business that we are, but actually a person that's just going to be like, yeah, I'll do whatever you need me to do, is so much more valuable at this stage.
Makes sense. Do you foresee any like shifts or changes in how you're building out the team and the org with AI in mind? Like, it's a big topic for us. It's a big topic for everybody. But like, is it something you're utilizing a lot? Is it something that you expect to?
Yeah, we do utilize, but in a very basic way, I would say at the moment. But it is becoming part of our teams every day. Using ChatGPT, using the resources that are out there to make us all more efficient. Sense check, just add that level of something that would take a person a really long time. Obviously you can now do in a matter of seconds or minutes. In a lot of cases, I think we will be looking to kind of see how it can really support the business from a headcount perspective. Being a small business, we do need to be as lean as we possibly can. And, our team, all of our team wear multiple hats. Then their role isn't just one area of the business or one channel. And it's seeing how AI can support them to be able to do more in other areas that their AI can't support in. Yeah. So whether that's within kind of CS and really kind of ramping up how AI is going to support that area of the business, we've got fantastic people in CS, so they can then put their skill set into other areas that, may actually hopefully drive more revenue.
Yeah, I think CS is a really interesting one because it's like, it's not there to replace the team, but it's there to, or like it's easy to sort of see how it automates a lot of the niggly, repetitive, 80% of the tickets that just can be whipped in and whipped out with a quick response, and then gives them time to go deeper on really changing someone's experience that makes them into like an advocate.
Yeah.
I think is really interesting. Selfish question, because it's something I'm trying to do better myself at the moment, but like, what is a typical day for you as like a CEO, and how are you structuring that to be super effective?
Oh, a typical day.
If there is a typical day, probably.
Yeah, I don't think
probably
there is a typical day. But I think I guess the biggest learning I've had since becoming a CEO is to focus on the things that you physically have to be involved in. So I've got, I'm a mum of 2, and I had my daughter, she's just turned 1. So I had my first little boy, he was 6 months old when we acquired the business. And then I had my second a year ago. You know, I didn't necessarily have, I was fortunate to be on mat leave when we acquired the business and very quickly came off it. And then having my second, I didn't really get any mat. I didn't really have mat leave. It's my own business. And, but what I did have to do was go like, seriously, what do you have to be involved in? Because I had to have a bit of time to recover and, you know, bring my baby up. You know, and I think I had around 4 months of not physically being in the business, and then came back in kind of full time, but I was still available. I made sure it was like certain times or specific things that I had to, almost wouldn't happen without me. And that was more when you're forced to do it, it becomes very clear on what those things are. And for me, that is spending time on the strategy and where we're going with Georgia. The more time that we spend together as kind of co-owners and leaders of the business, the better the business is, and the more time we spend on, you know, figuring out, having 2 heads looking at what product we've got coming, what range, what our website looks like, what our performance is on from a channel split, what brand activations we've got going on. We have an incredible way of getting a better result when we're together. And I honestly don't know what I would do without having her by my side through the journey with it. And that's how I've started to now structure my time, is those things that are really important that kind of almost can't happen without me, and delegate as much else as you possibly can. There's still things that come in. You know, you have people off. You have, at the moment, I've got most of my product team off. So my product head, I'm the one with the experience. I step back in to kind of support and keep that ticking over. But that's just the nature of a small business and a team.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I think that what you've just said there is like that difference between like being busy versus effective as well.
Yeah,
that's really difficult sometimes to retain that, because everything can feel like it needs attention at all times.
I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and the guy was talking about like focus versus noise, and he was like the incredible visionary kind of entrepreneurs of our time, like a Steve Jobs or you know, are able to shut out the noise and focus on the vision ultimately, but what they're trying to achieve. And the more that you can do that, the more that, you know, he was saying like Jobs was at like a 90% of shutting out all the noise. But, you know, he was also saying like the noise is your family, your friends, your social media, your, and it's almost like if it's not going to fuel your vision, then it's noise. And it's a really difficult thing, especially when you become a parent. Like none of my team have kids. So to my decision of whether I stay in the business or go home at like 4:00 is literally whether I see my children or not. And you really have to make sure that you are efficient with that time that you have.
It's like the best possible forcing function in life, I guess.
Yeah.
As kids.
So, they sure are.
Yeah, I guess that like Steve Jobs being 90% is, I think everyone would say he was probably a bit too, in some ways. It's like, it's very, I guess that's an introspective decision, isn't it? Of like, what's that right? What's right for you?
And there's only going to be a few of those people. Like I think the guy was actually saying like Elon Musk is almost at 100%, and it's like nothing else matters. And you know, those people will have the friends that they have the family that they have, you know. you can't do it all. You can't have it all if you're going to be kind of that focused on something. But it's more kind of saying the more that you can do, the more you're going to kind of achieve in that. So hopefully with some balance in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Well, final thing I wanted to touch on was, I guess, looking forward. And it's I have down what's the vision for Hera over the next 3 to 5 years, which is a very big question. But how are you thinking about taking the brand forward and establishing it within the category? Where do you want to get to over the next few years?
I feel like we are at a really good point where, like I said, we feel more comfortable now, like comfortable enough to be going into different markets. I would hope that within the next 3-5 years that we become more established in some other territories to the UK and see some good growth there. And also I think within it's going to be continuing to establish ourselves in the UK as well. I think we've got a really good opportunity within the women's wear side of the business. That there isn't many brands kind of doing women's wear in a really real way, in that more of the independent everyday clothing space. You've got your high street stores, you've got your kind of there's a couple of kind of other brands in that space, but I think that's a really good opportunity for us to create something that feels very kind of personal and real to our customer, and that's where we're seeing the green shoots at the moment. I think the men's side of the business is really, now we feel like we've really found where our customer is and what product they want, is really delivering that and building on that growth to more consumers, I think, within the UK. And then, you don't know what's going to happen alongside the territory growth. Hopefully we'll have some more in real life moments there as well. And the team are working really hard to make that happen for the rest of this year within the UK. But it's exciting. It feels like world's our oyster. We can do whatever we want to do.
Super exciting. I think that the women's expansion of women's revenues, was it over 30%?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's getting more towards that kind of 40%. I mean, depends on the month.
Yeah.
If we have a fantastic women's wear launch, it can get to the 50%. But like our denim year on year is just phenomenal growth on women's. It's crazy.
Exciting.
Something we can't keep in stock, which is great.
Good problems to have in some ways.
Good and bad. I
Until you have it.
Tell the team, I'm like, you give me that problem to solve, guys. Yeah. I don't mind solving that problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I personally really enjoyed speaking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Got through a lot of very different things to normal, so thank you. Where can people find you?
Obviously, heraclothing.com. That's the website. I do have an Instagram. I kind of have a work one. It's just Holly Beadle. You'll find it if you search that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Catch you on the next episode, guys. Thank you.